Hello, everybody, and welcome to the week before spring break for Qualitative Research Methods. Gonna have a pretty easy week this week as we get set for the break. Y'all done a great job so far, working hard, and I appreciate that. So I want to give you a couple of weeks to kind of catch your breath and get your feet back under you. I've got my grading all caught up for this class. Can't say the same thing for my media management class, but that's a different story. Want to tell you I was really pleased with what I saw from your interview projects. Thought y'all did a really nice job of developing some good open-ended questions that got you a lot of good information. You really got to the heart of the assignment, which is what I was hoping for. You did a nice job in your transcriptions. I gave everybody a note asking you what you thought about your transcription method. Some of you did the two-column format. Some of you did the numbering down the side for each line. A few of you did the question, then all the responses from your interviewees. And I just asked you, what did you think about that process? Did it work for you? Did it not? What would you do differently? None of you were wrong. Like I've said many, many times, transcription is a personal thing. What works for one may not work for another. But I want you to think about, okay, did I like this? Did it work well? Would I do it differently next time? Or am I perfectly content with that? But I was really, really pleased with that. You did a good job of coming up with themes and trying to centralize what it was they were talking about and encapsulating that. A couple of you did one thing that I wanted to share. You looked at, say for example, you might have looked at a college freshman, college sophomore, college junior, and a college senior. Okay, you interviewed each one, and what your idea was, I want to see if there's a difference in how they experience, I don't know, their first semester at the university. That's fine, but keep in mind that you're getting comparisons of 4 individuals at 4 different levels. So if you want to get these comparisons, if freshmen have different experiences from seniors, say, you're going to need to interview several freshmen and then interview several seniors. So if you interview one freshman and one senior and you think, hey, that's good, you're going to need more. Okay, you're going to have to go more in depth. When you do interviews, you typically interview 10 to 15 people to get those responses. So just something to keep in mind. Did want to point out, if you ever do, now for class purposes, for a class assignment, you never have to do this. But if you want to take your research and you want to go to a conference or you want to publish or anything like that, before you ever do your interviews, you have to go through the IRB training, okay? This is the website, the UCM website for IRB training. I'm going to attach the web address to the YouTube under the descriptions. That's where you have to go. It's not enough to apply for humans. It's either IRB, Institutional Review Board, or sometimes called Human Subjects. It's not enough to apply for it. There's a training you have to go through. It doesn't take long. It's an online training, but you, as a graduate student at the University of Central Missouri, will have to go through that. So keep that in mind. Coding. I had one student ask me about coding of interviews, and I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't something I'm familiar with. I never have been taught this process. I never went through this process. All of my training on doing interviews and then developing themes has just been, you get the transcriptions and then you start looking for common terminology and where they were kind of leading you to a particular theme, okay? But because I've been asked, because it is in your textbook, I'm going to do a little digging about it, do a little reading on it. I'm presenting at a conference the week after spring break, and I've done interviews for mine. I'm basically going to take my book, and there's a segment of that I'm going to be able to do as far as a qualitative study. I did the human subjects and all of that, but I'm going to go through and code it based on what we read from the text, and something new for me to learn. We're always learning new things all the time, so something new for me to learn. And then when you come back from spring break, I'll have one of these presentations and I'll share a bit with you about coding. Okay. Next up, this week all you have is watch the class video about case studies and do the reading about case studies. And this is our final of the 5 approaches to qualitative research that we're going to cover. Keep in mind that a case study is looking at one particular case at one particular time. So for example, when I was in school, the Exxon Valdez had its major spill up in Alaska. It spilled a lot of oil, and their PR handled it very, very poorly. And so in my public relations classes, I had actually had a class called Public Relations Case Studies, we looked at that case as a way not to do crisis communication. But it was just looking at that particular case. So it wasn't looking at Exxon Valdez's PR campaign as a whole. It wasn't looking at the oil spill in terms of what went wrong with the ship. It was looking at the way PR handled the oil spill in terms of media relations, in terms of crisis communications. Okay, so it's just looking at that one particular case at that one particular time. I've done one case study research project. It was very interesting, very enlightening, and it can't really be applied to any other case, but others will look at that and say, okay, now how did they do it? Mine was on how to develop a dual credit collaboration in sports broadcasting. When I was working with several schools, and we did a dual credit class, and I was teaching about sports broadcasting and how I developed that class at that time. So somebody else might be able to come in and they wanted to do a dual credit program in theater, for example. They could read that study and say, okay, what did he do? How did he work with the high schools? What were the pitfalls? What were the strengths of the process that he went through? So they can develop